live from the White House today. It's Scott Jennings here on the Salem Radio Network. We're a little ahead of the show. It's 1:50 Eastern. As you all know, the show comes to you at 2 o'clock. And we are sitting in this amazing set. Now, you may remember during the Biden years, remember when they came up with the idea to create like a fake presidential office, like a fake Oval Office, and they had Biden like take pictures out of it and do. Anyway, I'm in it. And so we're broadcasting live from this made for TV studio, and I have to say it looks pretty cool. It's like a movie set in here. But coming up at 2 o'clock, we have an amazing show. We have news on the president ordering a blockade around Venezuela. We have news on the president going to a dignified remains transfer in Dover today. We are tracking what's going on Capitol Hill with the vote in the House regarding health care. And at the top of the show, we're going to have Tom Emmer, Congressman Tom Emmer from Minnesota, the whip of the Republicans, to explain to us what happened today. So we'll get the news of the day in the A block. In the B block, the SBA administrator, Kelly Loeffler, is going to come by and talk about what the SBA is doing on small businesses and cutting away regulatory red tape to help small business owners. At the bottom of the hour, 33 minutes past the hour, Kevin Hassett, the president's top economic advisor, is going to come by, and we're going to talk about the state of the economy and what we can expect to hear about the economy and plans for 2026 from the president tonight. So we'll talk to Kevin Hassett about that. And then at 2:50, Deputy White House Chief of Staff James Blair is going to come in, and we'll talk a little politics to wrap up the show. So we have Emmer, Loeffler, Hassett, and Blair, 4 amazing guests, lots of news. We're at the White House, and this whole thing is setting up tonight. The president addresses the nation at 9 o'clock tonight. And after I finish the radio show today, I'm going to go over to CNN at 4 o'clock and do a Casey Hunt show. And then I'm going to hang around the office tonight and do some post-speech coverage with CNN after the president finishes addressing the nation. So it's 1:53. We get going here in about 7 minutes. We appreciate you joining us. We got a huge show. We're broadcasting live from the White House today. Stay with us, and don't forget, it's every day, 2 to 3 on the Salem Radio Network and live here on X. Okay.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network. Return from break in 9 minutes. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network returned from break in 8 minutes and 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network returned from break in 8 minutes. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 7 minutes and 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 7 minutes. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 6 minutes and 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 6 minutes. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 5 minutes and 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 5 minutes. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 4 minutes. Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 2 minutes. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 1 minute and 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return in 1 minute. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 45 seconds. Scott Jennings Show on the Radio Network will return from break in 30 seconds.
Hey, Sean, I'm going to send you up a clip real quick.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 15 seconds.
Got me, Sean?
Yeah.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 5 seconds.
He's not just a conservative voice at CNN. He's the last man standing athwart the leftist mob, delivering the fiery truth, surrounded, outnumbered, still undefeated. Fighting for free speech, Western civilization, and delivering common sense for the American people. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Scott Jennings.
It's Scott Jennings, Common Sense for the American People, broadcasting to you live from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. We are emanating this broadcast from the White House, the People's House. I want to personally thank President Donald J. Trump and his staff for allowing us to bring common sense for the American people from the White House today. The Scott Jennings Show is sponsored by Ease Total Health. Health insurance is broken. We know that, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But Ease fixes it. No deductibles, no red tape, real benefits from day one. Go to easeforeveryone.com/Scott to find out more. We are in the White House today on a day that the president will address the nation tonight at 9 o'clock about what's been happening with his agenda this year and what he predicts for the economy in 2026. The president is also today at Dover overseeing the dignified remains transfer of 3 American service personnel. And we're also here on a day after the president has ordered a blockade around Venezuela. We expect to hear about all of this today from the president when he speaks to the nation tonight. We are going to start the show, however, with Capitol Hill. There's news on Capitol Hill. Welcome into the show, Tom Emmer, the Republican whip, a member of the leadership team for the majority Republican Party. He's from Minnesota. Congressman Emmer, there's been all sorts of activity on the Hill today. There have been votes. There have been Republicans like Mike Lawler of New York who have sided with Democrats regarding health care. In fact, let's hear from Lawler. I want to get your response to this, and then I want to get an update. Here's Lawler. Sean, do we have Congressman Lawler?
Phone.
We don't have it. Okay.
Yeah,
Here's Tom Emmer from Minnesota. Congressman, thanks for joining us today. What's going on up there today? Just give us the report.
Well, first off, we've got the Lower Health Premiums for All Act, Scott. And by the way, thanks for having me. I was listening to you. You're right. There's a whole bunch of activity. We got the SPEED Act that we're working on, which is NEPA reforms, environmental permitting that is 30 years overdue that will streamline projects, still protecting the environment, but allow people to get shovels in the ground and get things moving. And you know, now that the president has signed the Working Families Tax Cut Act into law, those permanent tax policies go into effect on January 1st. And if you don't have a permitting process that works, where, for instance, my state, Polymet mine up in the northern part of Minnesota, or Twin Metals, one has waited like 15 years and the other one is over 20, Scott. We've got to get back to producing things in this country. So that SPEED Act is one of the things that's moving yet this week. And then you've got the health care bill. You know, Democrats just want the issue. They want a campaign issue. They're talking about these subsidies as if they're going to solve the problem. You know what, Scott? 300 million Americans got a 20% minimum increase in their premiums this year. The enhanced premium tax credits they're talking about would only apply to 7% of Americans, about 21 of the 300 million people. And by the way, it would only reduce, even if it was the right thing, it would only reduce it by about 5%. So the answer is what Republicans are doing. Republicans have this, they are looking at the Unaffordable Care Act, and this is what we got to remind people of. Democrats passed this 15 years ago. They called it the Affordable Care Act, and they said that it would do 3 things. 1, you can keep your doctor. 2, you'll have more choices. And 3, it's going to lower your premium. Scott, they're 0 for 3. They broke the healthcare system. So Republicans want to lower costs, give patients a choice, and get to the root cause of the healthcare crisis. It's really not a crisis in our healthcare system. It's a crisis with our healthcare insurance. The co-conspirators in writing this bill, it is the health insurers that have been making money hand over fist while Americans get less and less. The bill that we're going to be voting on here in the House, it would increase PBM transparency. Those are private benefit managers that negotiate drug price. Yeah. Yes, the middleman. Give you transparency so the consumer knows if they're being ripped off. Appropriate cost-sharing reduction payments to lower premiums, which, by the way, this would absolutely lower premiums immediately by at least 12%. We had it in the Working Families Tax Cut Act, but Democrats in the Senate fought to have it taken out. So we're passing it today here in the House. In addition to allowing small businesses to offer employees more tailored and affordable health care options, and we're expanding access to association health plans. The list goes on and on.
So let's just separate these issues out because I want our audience to understand the news of the day. The House Republicans are going to put a bill on the floor. Is it this afternoon that will address all of these healthcare issues that you just mentioned? And if I'm not mistaken, the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, has scored this, and the Republican plan will reduce health insurance premiums by, I think, 11 or 12%, which is more than they scored the Democrat plan. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, that's
correct. I believe the health care bill, Scott's being voted on tomorrow morning.
It'll be tomorrow
morning. The Act, I believe, is this afternoon, yes.
Okay, so that'll be here within the next 24 hours. So that's what the legislative vote is going to be. But I want to go back to this other issue. Some Republicans signed a discharge petition today, I guess siding with Democrats on their bill to extend Obamacare subsidies. We saw that news this morning. Is that actually going to happen? Have some Democrats helped, or some Republicans, help Democrats take control of the House floor on this health care issue today?
Yeah, and by the way, I was just corrected. Apparently, Steve Scalise, our majority leader, has moved the vote on the health care bill up to tonight, with the idea that if we can get our work done, people will be able to leave Thursday night. So, on the issue of discharge petitions, the answer is we do have several Republicans who have signed onto a discharge petition. They've been frustrated by the delay. Now, let's keep in mind when we talk about these things that Democrats are the ones who set this expiration date, which is December 31st, when they passed these COVID era subsidies without a single Republican vote. As I told you, the subsidies don't even address the problem, and Democrats stripped out a provision that we would have lowered premiums in the big, beautiful bill. That doesn't help some of our swing district members. They need to go home and they want to be able to talk about the fact that they are addressing this directly. They're going to be able to. I think what you saw was just frustration. Unfortunately, now that issue probably becomes ripe after we come back at the beginning of the year.
Okay, so that was my next question. Procedurally, what happens next? So because of this petition, when you return from the Christmas break, there will be a vote on that. So as we sit here today, then, the Republican majority in the House is going to pass a health care bill tonight. It will do a number of things, and the CBO says it will reduce health insurance premiums. What it will not do is continue to send billions upon billions of dollars to health insurance companies, which are failing the American people. We'll see that tonight. We'll see permitting reform. So a flurry of legislative activity in the House tonight, and then at 9 o'clock, we'll see what the president has to say about all of it when he addresses the nation. Congressman Tom Emmer, member of the House Republican leadership from Minnesota. Thank you, sir, for coming on the show and getting us up to speed. It's a flurry of activity on Capitol Hill today, and we here at the show are broadcasting live from the White House. It's Scott Jennings, Common Sense for the American People, live from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. When we come back after this break, we're going to talk to Kelly Loeffler, who is the administrator of the SBA. At the bottom of the hour, Kevin Hassett, the president's top economic advisor, is coming by. At 50 minutes past the hour, Deputy White House Chief of Staff James Blair, the president's top political advisor, is going to come by as well. A quick word from our friends at the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. It's cold in Ukraine, comes early there, especially for elderly Jews like Olga. And that cold can be deadly. She's 79. She's in a small village, no indoor plumbing, no bathroom, no heating. She's pumping water from a well in sub-zero temperatures. And her meager pension is not enough to cover food, medicine, and heat. Poverty consumes her life. However, she's not alone. Thousands of elderly Jews across Ukraine and all across the former Soviet Union face similar struggles. And they're also not alone because they have help from the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. They help these folks who are in need. And if you want to learn more about it, I encourage it. Go to urgentifcj.org. That's urgentifcj.org. Again, broadcasting live from the White House today. It's Scott Jennings. Coming up, Kelly Loeffler from the SBA, Kevin Hassett, James Blair. Tons of action on Salem today. It's Common Sense for the American People. Stay with us.
If the leftists haven't had enough yet, there's more. This is the Scott Jennings Show.
Hey, get in here. Hello. How are you?
If I come out like a dream, will you let me show you what I mean? Will you let me come on inside?
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 4 minutes.
All I want is a remedy for all of the things that will be. Ooh, I will take another. Please.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Baby, why you dye your hair? Why you always keep with your mother's hair?
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes.
Tell me, did the other children's going on you? If I come on like a dream, ooh, will you let me show you what I mean? Will you let me come?
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
All I want is a remedy for all of the things that we need. I would totally take another to please me.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 2 minutes. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 1 minute and 30 seconds.
I need a remedy, yeah, for what is ailing me, you see. I need a remedy for what is ailing me. I need a remedy, yeah, for what's ailing me.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return in 1 minute. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 45 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 15 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 5 seconds.
He's not in the Oval Office or owning the libs on CNN. He's here with us. It's the Scott Jennings Show.
Radio Network. We are at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. We're in the White House. You might have noticed, by the way, I'm not alone. The administrator of the SBA, Kelly Loeffler, is here from Georgia. She's come by, the first of three administration guests. We have Kevin Hassett coming at the bottom of the hour and James Blair coming at 50 minutes past the hour. Before we talk about the SBA, Kelly, I did want to bring up an issue, and I know you're involved in it, and you just did something on it today. We have a great sponsor of the show called Americans for Free Markets. They're really worried about the debanking issue, where people are denied financial services based on politics and other issues. And their website, by the way, is forfreemarkets.org. But effectively, they support the president's executive order to stop debanking, and they want Congress to act. But you're doing something on this right now.
Well, that's right, Scott. First of all, great to be with you. And
Thank you.
Just a real honor to be on your show. Look, debanking is a serious issue, and it didn't just start in the Biden administration. It started with Obama under Choke Point, Operation Choke Point 2.0, continued under Joe Biden. And thanks to President Trump's executive order, we were able to send out to 5,000 banks and demand that they disclose any debanking issues and then reinstate customers that were unlawfully debanked. And so those responses are due by January 5th. So more to come. We're working with the OCC, the FDIC, and the Fed to make sure that we have all the responses back.
What do you hear from Congress on this? You think there's interest in legislating on it?
Well, look, I think, first of all, the regulators, the bank regulators were most affected in terms of we now have a Michelle Bowman in at the Fed who is overseeing supervisory matters and ensuring that Americans aren't unlawfully debanked, that regulators were actually asking banks to do that. And in some cases, the banks were on their own debanking, but then some of the penalties, capital charges related to banking, what they called reputational risky industries. So she's peeling that back already. So under President Trump, he's already making a big difference for consumers, whether they're 2A, pro-life, Christian organizations. They're getting access to banking services now.
Fantastic report. Okay, let's talk about the Small Business Administration. You yourself are a bank. That's what the SBA is, and the president put you in charge of it. Obviously, the economy, a hot topic. He's speaking to the country tonight. You're talking to small businesses across the country. What are you hearing from folks about the president's policies, the state of the economy, and what you expect in 2026?
Well, as the president likes to say, Kelly, small business is big business, and it absolutely is. It's 99% of all businesses in this country. They create 2 out of every 3 new jobs. I was just walking factory floors yesterday, which I've done from Alaska to Maine, and we're seeing that this economy is spring-loaded in 2026. For hiring, that's small businesses' number one concern is finding that skilled workforce. But they're grateful to this president for passing the working family tax cuts, for really creating rocket fuel for investing in this country. We're bringing manufacturing back, and then we're deregulating, because under Joe Biden, about $6 trillion in regulations were heaped on the backs of small businesses, and we've already started rolling those back. In fact, we just announced a task force to, we really call it a strike force, because we have a most wanted list of regulations. A lot of it's Green New Deal stuff that affects housing, transportation, energy, but some of it's healthcare. Our small businesses want to make sure that government regs aren't making healthcare more expensive, which we know they are.
So the president and the Congress, through the big, beautiful bill, made tax cuts permanent. They did deregulate on energy issues. Over here in the executive branch, you all are working to repeal and get rid of regulations that prevent hiring. You use the word spring-loaded for 26. I've heard the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent predict a boom in 2026. Is that what you're feeling from small businesses out there? Do you feel like we're going to see the kind of growth that the president and the Treasury Secretary are predicting in the year ahead?
We are, because first of all, small businesses have something they haven't had in a long time, which is certainty on taxes. And so that 20% pass-through deduction, big businesses they knew their tax rate year to year. Small businesses had to guess what was going to happen in the tax bill that Democrats holistically across the entire group said we need to raise taxes on the American people to the tune of $4 trillion. That would have fallen on the backs of hardworking Americans and small businesses. They now know they have the 199A, they have the 179, 100% expensing. So that way, when a farmer buys a tractor or someone builds a factory, they can expense 100% of it, and then R&D expensing 100%. So Made in America is back thanks to President Trump.
And where we find the SBA, SBA.gov.
That's right.
If you're a small business and you think you might need help from the SBA, this is the boss. Kelly Loeffler, the administrator of the SBA, the pride of Georgia, is here, and she's doing a great job for President Trump. And we're glad you stopped by today. You're our first administration guest here on our big broadcast from the White House, so we really appreciate you coming by to give us the report.
Honor. Thank you, Scott.
All right, coming up at the bottom of the hour here, we'll take a break. Kevin Hassett to talk more economic conditions. When we come back, it's Common Sense for the American people. Scott Jennings on the Salem Radio Network.
Common sense for the American people. This is the Scott Jennings Show.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 5 minutes.
Run down. I've been lied to, and I don't know why. I let that mean woman make me a fool. She took all my money.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
Now she's with one of my good time buddies. They're drinking in some crosstown bar. Sometimes I feel like I've been tied to the whipping post.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 4 minutes.
I feel like I'm dying.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
My friends tell me that I've been such a fool.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes.
Oh, for loving you. Drown myself in sorrow as I look at what you've done. But nothing seems to change. The bad times stay the same, and I can't run. Sometimes I feel.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Good Lord, I feel like I'm dying.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break.
Yeah.
We're going to do Angel Tree.
Okay.
We're going to do Angel Tree.
It's got that Bruce Pearl clip in it, you know, from when he was on your show.
Yeah, so I'm just going to get to it real fast. I'm going to say, Angel Tree campaign, 8 days to go. We got a great endorsement this week from
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return in 1 minute.
Sometimes I feel. Sometimes I feel.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 45 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 15 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 5 seconds.
Taking Charlie Kirk's slot, so we're going to move the schedule around a little bit. Going to 2 hours.
The man who made CNN safe for conservatives again. Here's Scott Jennings.
Scott Jennings, common sense for the American people, broadcasting live from the White House today. And in just a moment, the president's top economic advisor is here, Kevin Hassett, my old friend. And we're going to talk about what's going on in the economy today, what we predict for 2026, and what we're going to hear from the president tonight when he addresses the nation at 9 o'clock. First and quickly, I want to go back to this, the Angel Tree Christmas campaign still going on here. We have 8 days to go before Christmas. And boy, we are reaching thousands of children who have a mom or a dad in prison. And every time I tell somebody about the Angel Tree campaign, which, by the way, I am a personal donor to, they say, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen, including earlier this week, I was talking to legendary college basketball coach Bruce Pearl on this show. He heard the Angel Tree appeal, and he said, I'm going to do that. Let's hear from Bruce Pearl.
Listen, brother, before I comment on what happened in Australia, I want to tell you that the Bruce Pearl family is going to donate to the Angel Tree campaign, and I'm going to call that 888 number as soon as you and I are done with this interview, and help some fathers that are in prison show that kids that they still love them, because it's so important. So thank you for doing it.
Don't take it from me. Take it from Bruce Pearl, who you hear now on college basketball broadcasts. And, you know, he has been a mentor to thousands of young men in his career. And he's dealt with a lot of families who've had similar situations. A child with someone in prison through no fault of their own. Christmas is a rough time. And with the Angel Tree campaign, $30, you sponsor one of these kids, they get a gift from their parents. They get a personal note, and they get the gospel. They get a Bible. They get the gospel of Christ. The number that Coach Pearl referenced is 888-206-2793, 888-206-2793. Or go to scottjenningsshow.com, click on the Angel Tree banner, and you can make a donation that way. It's Scott Jennings on the Salem Radio Network. We are broadcasting live from the White House today, and I'm honored to be joined by Kevin Hassett. You are, sir, the president's top economic advisor. You see Kevin out there on the Sunday shows and on cable, talking about the president's economic agenda, talking about the decisions that are made and what's going on in our economy. Kevin, thanks for joining us here, sir. Appreciate having you in. I've come to your office to do this today. So let me just level set. We're at the end of 2025. The president's been in for almost a year. Where are we in the American economy, and where are we headed?
Yeah, well, where we are in the American economy is that we've had an amazing run already. And, I'm not going to go too deep into what the president's going to say tonight, but we've been working on the speech all day yesterday and today, more than that, but really finalizing it today. And there's so much good news about what we've accomplished this year. One of the things that we've been looking at, for example, is just I know people are concerned about electricity prices, and it's one thing to whine about electricity prices and blame Joe Biden, but the president's a man of action, and so what he wants to see is what have we done about it, and the amount of new power plants that are coming online over the next year or two, because President Trump has worked with Doug Burgum and Chris Wiles to get the permits accepted and so on, and so I expect there's a chance that tonight he's actually going to talk about all the things that we're doing to get electricity prices down, next year. So we're going to be talking a lot about the things that we've done this year, but we've also got plans for next year that are just through the roof. In terms of how the economy's doing, we are growing back about 4% since the president took office. And the thing I remember most about this when I started being the top advisor for the president in season 1 back in 2017.
Congrats on being not getting killed off at the end of the first season.
I
You're
thought
back
I
for
would just
season
be
2.
Christmas special for season 2, but we'll see how it goes. It's not Christmas yet, right?
Right,
So
right.
could be still. But the point is that when we came in and we ran the numbers, so we said, Mr. President, Barack Obama and his people, Larry Summers, all those guys have told us that we're in the new normal. And the new normal is that growth has to be like 1%, and there's nothing we can do about it. And wages are their wages are stagnant, real wages are declining. People are worse off because that's the new normal. That's the way the world is. And the president's like, no, it's not. That's not the way the world is. Let's go in and change some policies and then deliver for the American people. And so we came out after talking with the president and he picked out the best policies. And I came out and started to go on TV, you remember, and I said, we're going to have 3% growth.
Yep.
And the president said, we're going to have 3% growth. And wages are going to go up by $4,000. Actually ended up being $6,500. But when we did that, you might recall the amount of abuse we got from those Obama people. And my favorite one from a person who's a little bit on the ropes right now, Larry Summers.
A little bit.
But he said this about me. He said that I'm either a liar or stupid or both. Because I said we could have 3% growth, that we could be, great again. and so the thing I want to say is that we were ridiculed for 3%.
Yep.
And we'll be ridiculed for what Secretary Bessent and I and the president are saying now, because we're highly confident that we're going to be above 4 next year and for the years to come. And if you'd like, we could talk about the nuances of why that's true, but we're just as bullish as we could be because of what we've seen, the promises that have been made, the groundbreakings that we're looking at, the power that we're generating. All of that stuff is going to make really next year one of the best years you've ever seen.
So I go on CNN a lot, as you know, and have to fight 4 or 5 people at the same time.
I used to be a contributor on CNN.
I know.
And do you know why I quit? Because they would never put me on. So they hired me as a contributor, so that meant I couldn't go out other places.
Yeah.
But then they didn't know how to ever use me, and so I was like, okay, so it's money, but
now
why would I do this?
And now they have to use you,
but they don't pay me. They pay you. They don't pay me.
So here's what I hear. In these liberals, they sort of forget what happened during the Biden years. They forget the inflation spike. They forget the affordability. They love the word affordability, but they sort of forget what happened during the Biden years. And what they really want everybody to forget is the deep, deep hole and really being on the brink in our economy that you and the president and Secretary Bessent inherited back in January. Maybe sort of take us back to that moment when you got here. Were we on the brink? And then the immediate moves that were made, are you surprised that the president's been able to sort of begin to build a ladder out of this hole as quickly as he has?
Yeah, things are moving fast in the right direction. But the president won clearly for lots of reasons. But one of the main reasons was that Americans saw their economic lives falling apart under Joe Biden. And we could talk about immigration later, but the point is just on the economics, they mailed checks to people and the Fed printed money. And so it was like what we economists call a helicopter drop. And everybody knows that helicopter drops cause inflation because all of a sudden everybody has an extra $1,000 in their pocket that fell out of the sky. Then wherever they go, they want to buy stuff, but everybody shows up all at once. And so the price goes up. And that's what happened. And the official statistics really are misleading on this too. It was way worse for people's lives than it looks like if you just look at the consumer price index, which is always what people talk about in the news. And here's why. It doesn't include interest rates. So when they're measuring inflation, they don't include interest rates. And so think of this. For a typical person, middle class person buying a home in a sort of starter home, then the annual, I won't do monthly, I'll do annual. The annual mortgage payment for the person buying that home went up because of Joe Biden's policies from when President Trump left office until just now, or say last January, by $14,000.
Wow.
That's an annual payment went up by $14,000. If you look at gasoline and food and everything else that went up 20%, then you're basically looking at, to be like round numbers, the typical family had to spend $20,000 or $25,000 more
Wow.
to tread water because of Biden's inflation. And when you buy stuff, you might recall that that's money that's after tax.
Right.
And so if you're going to have $25,000 more to spend and tread water, you actually got to make like $40,000 because the government takes so much.
Right.
And so if your income didn't go up by $30,000 or $40,000 in the Biden years,
You're hurt.
You're hurt.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of people that genuinely were harmed, and we're fixing it fast. But we're also aware of the depth and the gravity of the problem that Joe Biden created.
So we've cut taxes here. The big, beautiful bill locked in the president's tax cuts and added new tax cuts for working families. Energy prices, gas prices are at a 4 or 5 year low right now. That's a good thing for people who drive around. And
you remember eggs?
And eggs are I know that I had to fight about. And by the way, I'm a chicken farmer. I had to fight about eggs all year long. Now they don't want to bring up the eggs.
I got to tell you this, though, since you're a chicken farmer. So I go into the first meeting with all the careers, and they're talking about eggs. I said, well, why is egg price so high? They said, well, we got the avian flu, and so we've been culling a lot of chickens. And they say we would go and we'd find a chicken that had the avian flu, and we'd kill every chicken within 20 miles. They killed millions and millions of chickens. And so I said to the staff, these are career people that were advising the Democrats. And I said, so if a chicken is sick over here, then you go 20 miles away and you kill the other chicken. Have you ever seen a chicken fly?
Barely.
Like if the dog goes after the chicken, he can make it to the ceiling for about a minute. But
when this was all going on, the Biden and the Democrats last year during the campaign, they were always using the word bloodbath. I'm like, the only bloodbath that happened in America was all the great chicken slaughter of 2024 that Joe Biden foisted upon the American people.
I could go on about avian flu forever because it was one of the things that was the number one talking point of the far left when we got in is egg prices. It's all our fault.
Now they're cheap.
And then we just stopped killing the chickens, and then the egg prices kind of.
Are you telling me?
I got to tell you something though.
Are you telling me if you leave chickens alive, they will lay eggs?
They will lay eggs.
Oh my goodness.
That's right. But I got to tell you the worst thing. It's actually somewhat tragic, but. Very tragic for one person. But there were about 60 cases of avian flu in humans.
Mm-hmm.
And one person sadly passed away. We went back and looked at what caused the avian flu to spread to the chickens. It was mostly caught by the people who are paid by Biden to kill the chickens.
Oh no! So Biden sends people out to kill the chickens. They catch avian flu
because
egg prices.
If you try to kill a chicken and you're not careful, he's going to scratch you or something, right?
I know about that.
Yeah.
All right, we got about a minute left, and I don't want to belabor this, and I don't want to put you on the spot. But a lot of folks are talking about you. We're going to see the Fed chair job come open. Powell's out. A lot of folks are talking about you as a candidate. Do you want to have a comment on it? What can you say about A, what can you say about it for yourself? And B, how soon will we see the president make a decision?
The president will make the decision very soon, probably by the first of the year, maybe a little bit after. He's interviewing a bunch of candidates. I'm honored to be in that group. I've worked closely with the president since 2017. As one of his top advisors, I, of course, talk to him about everything, including monetary policy, almost every day. And I think that I'd be very good at the job, but I love the job that I have here. And I think that the president and I will work together to think about whether the best place for me is here or there. But if the president decides to send me there, then I'll be honored and I'll serve. But the thing I got to say is that there are a lot of really, really great candidates the president's interviewing. And you could go to like Chris Waller, who's already at the Fed, who's a Notre Dame professor who wrote a lot about monetary policy. And so he and the other candidates are really qualified. And so I think what I want everybody to know is that don't worry about the decision because the president isn't making a tough choice. He's got nothing but good choices.
Good choices. And you would be one of them. We're honored that you took some time out to talk to us here at the White House today. That voice you're hearing is Kevin Hassett, the president's top economic advisor. Maybe he's getting a new job title in the new year. We'll find out from the president when we come back from the Christmas break. Quick word from our friends at Relief Factor. I'm just going to boil it down for you. If you have aches and pains, which, Kevin, you do from the attacks that you suffer on cable news all the time. When you have aches and pains, there's only one thing to do about it. Do something. Get Relief Factor. ReliefFactor.com. 1-800-4-RELIEF. You don't have to live with it. I'm not sure if Relief Factor would solve your problems, Kevin. I'll be honest. I mean, what they're doing to you, this would not solve. But if your joints are sore and things like that, it would solve your problem. Maybe. Go to ReliefFactor.com. We use it. We like it. When we come back, the president's top political advisor just walked in. James Blair is here. It's Common Sense for the American People. Scott on the Salem Radio Network.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 2 minutes. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 1 minute and 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return in 1 minute. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 45 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 15 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 5 seconds.
He's the author of the best-selling book, A Revolution of Common Sense. Here's Scott Jennings.
Live from the White House, it's Scott Jennings on the Salem Radio Network. Tonight, President Trump speaks to the nation at 9 o'clock. And with me right now is the president's top political advisor. He is Deputy White House Chief of Staff. He is in charge of the legislative and political strategy here at the White House. His name is James Blair. James, thanks for coming on the Scott Jennings Show.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Okay, first question. Tonight, the president speaks to the nation. What are we going to hear from the president? What's the framework of the speech?
It's really about what we have done in the first year, what the president has accomplished, and also where we're going. The president has made progress in a lot of the areas that are important to voters that everybody is talking about, things like the economy, affordability, and he will highlight the successes that we have had. And I think he will also talk about going forward. The president really wants to make the American people whole after Joe Biden and the Democrats for the last 4 years really stole from them through terrible policy, through inflation, the highest in our country's history. People were hurting. Wages were not outpacing inflation. They are now. Obviously, prices were rising, all of these things. And so it was a big hole that they dug us into. The president is trying to get us out. We're making progress, but there's still more work to be done. And that's what this speech will be about.
Yeah, it seems to me heading into the election year, drawing a bright line between what the Democrats, did to the country and what Trump, the Republicans, are trying to do to fix that is critical. I'm not sure that was, folks weren't really thinking about that. And of course, you turn on your cable TV and you got every Democrat out there who sort of has amnesia about what happened during Biden. But you all inherited an economy and a country in many ways on the brink. And so the policies that you had to implement were drastic because we were on the brink of some even worse outcomes than people had already suffered.
Absolutely true. And look, the Democrats, I don't think, have a lot of credibility on this topic ultimately. And once we get really into campaign season, I think they are going to find it hard to stick the landing with voters. So when the Democrats are out there and say, we want to make life more affordable, well, first of all, they are the ones, their spending policies primarily are the ones that drove prices through the roof, through inflation. And then everything President Trump and the Republicans in Congress have done to try to put money back in the American people's pocket. So the big one, obviously, is our working families tax cut package passed over the summer. Every single Democrat in Congress voted against that. So as we turn into January and people start to adjust their withholding when they redo their forms for the year, if you're a wage worker, or when we get to April where people are going to see some of the biggest returns they've ever had, every Democrat in Congress voted against all of those things. And you see in a bunch of blue states, actually, which is really remarkable, Scott, a bunch of blue states, states like New York, right here in the District of Columbia, Illinois, have started to emergency rewrite their own tax rules to try to capture the tax cuts that were given to them by the federal government. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime pay. What a lot of those blue states, blue governed states are saying is that our people are not going to get these tax cuts. We're actually going to put a new tax into state law that captures that money back. I don't think that's going to play well for them in the election cycle. So look, I don't think Democrats have a lot of credibility to stand on, and I think we'll be able to make that very clear throughout the next year.
And you raise the specter of Democrats arguing this out in the election. The economy will be a top, if not the top issue. I still think immigration is one of the president's greatest successes. I'm still flabbergasted at how Democrats handle this, spending way more time trying to do things for illegal aliens than American citizens. I assume we're going to continue to see aggressive immigration enforcement policies out of the administration in 26.
Absolutely. Look, the flood of illegal immigration competes with Americans for government services, just for things like housing. I mean, there was a report that just came out that said 60% of the increased rental costs were driven by illegal immigration. I mean, there's competition, right? And so when you flood the country with 20 million new people, well, they're going to live somewhere. They're going to get on government services, and there's only so much to go around. And something that's a great achievement of President Trump in the first year is that all of the net new jobs have gone to American-born workers, whereas under the Biden administration, all of the net new jobs went to foreign-born workers. This is a great sign, and that's one of the main reasons that wages, real wage growth, income, is outpacing inflation. That's because cheap foreign labor is not competing as much for the jobs that Americans have in lowering the overall wages for the American people.
So gas prices are way down. You've shrunk the size of government. The new jobs that are being created are going to American workers. And in 2026, because of the policies implemented, Bessent, Hassett, and Blair, I assume, predicting economic boom in 26?
Absolutely. I think economic boom. Bessent just posted the deficit's down 20%. Interest rates are going out. Taxes are down. Things are going to be great next year.
That's James Blair, the president's top political advisor. I'm Scott Jennings. We're live from the White House. The president speaks tonight at 9 o'clock. You should watch it. I'll be on CNN analyzing it after. Common sense for the American people. Join us again tomorrow. It's Scott on Salem.
With the salt and sweet.